The opinions expressed by the host and guests in this show are not necessarily the views of Children's Health Defense.
Good morning, CHD. It is Monday, May the 26th, 2025. It's Memorial Day. I hope some of you are getting some time off. We have a very important show for you today, and I'm excited to start the show off with some good news. So out of bad comes good. Right, let's bring on our guests. They've both been on before. You've met them before, viewers, but we're going to remind you it's Peggy Hokett and it's Leslie Vaxxed. And we're going to remind you a little bit of their story. So Peggy, if you want to go first and just remind people of what happened, then Leslie, take that on, and then we'll tell you the good news after.
I went to see you on the Children's Health Defense in Oklahoma, and I brought my husband's hospital records. You were really doing vaccine injured, but I thought, okay, I'm going to go and show her this. I didn't even have a time slot or an interview, but you guys let me show you anyways. My husband was killed in a hospital. They said it was COVID. I say it's lack of early treatment and hospital protocol.
Yeah, and it was shocking for us, the bus crew, because Oklahoma, I think, was our second stop on the tour when we just started out with the Children's Health Defense bus. And so you guys were really the first to bring it to us attention. And then after that, it was a roller coaster of hospital protocol deaths. Leslie, remind everyone of your story, please.
My husband, Paul Batts, was admitted to Hillcrest Hospital South in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and there were a lot of questions about his treatment there. We refused some of the treatments, intubation and the remdesivir and such, and they intubated him anyway. When I received the medical records, which I recommend for everyone to do anytime you're in the hospital, not just from COVID, but always monitor your medical records. There were so many things that we found out that have been horrible treatment. And so we're very blessed to be able to bring this good news today. We are thrilled that we've made it as far as we have. Peggy has been a tremendous partner. I say partner in crime through all of this, but you know, I couldn't have done any of it without her. And so
you're both a shining example of what happens when you really passionately go out there and fight for what is right. So talk us through the story of how you guys got together and started this journey for justice.
It was July of 2022. By the time I had realized that I was not the only one that had experienced all of this. My husband died in October of 2021. And it took months to go through the medical records. It took months because of all of the censorship and all the social media platforms to realize this was not an isolated event. We met through widow groups that hadn't been shut down, that kind of focused around COVID widows. And as we started talking, we realized that we were local to each other, that we had very similar stories, and that we both wanted to do something about it because we didn't see a whole lot of people pursuing things from alternative angles and getting really creative. We were aware of Scott's case, and we moved forward from there. We did a rally in February of 2023 and started bringing more awareness. And it was amazing to see people kind of coming out of the woodwork to support us. During that rally, Mr. Humphrey actually came to us and said he wanted to do an interim study because there were so many people coming forward. And that was October of 2024. We did establish a state petition that we got hundreds of signatures on to take to the Attorney General to file a criminal complaint for battery and kidnapping, false imprisonment, and constructive fraud, because people were made, to make decisions based on fraudulent information, being told that ventilators were just supportive therapy and remdesivir was the only authorized treatment. So at that point, we filed the petition, we filed our complaint. The interim study came around, and Mr. Humphrey at that study announced 2 probable cause affidavits, criminal probable cause affidavits for those crimes. Peggy and Representative Humphrey took those over to the Attorney General back in November. And last month, this is where the good news comes in. Last month, we received letters, or I received a letter, Peggy's getting ready to get hers, that the complaints had been forwarded to the multi-county grand jury for investigation and review. So that's kind of how we got to where we're at now.
So Mrs. Batt's story is heartbreaking. As she says that there, you both have fought so hard for your husband's stories to be heard. And I'm sure that people around the world are so grateful to you, because it's untold how many people were killed in these hospitals.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've got that letter now, which is fantastic news, because viewers, if you're thinking, well, so, maybe whatever, you have to understand that it's really, really, really hard to break through on any of this. It's like the vaccine injury. It's like all of the other stuff is really hard. And these 2 ladies have actually broken through. What's the next step?
From here, the grand jury is super secret because they want to protect individuals on the grand jury from coercion or threats and that kind of thing. So we likely won't hear anything unless we are contacted to come and provide testimony to the grand jury, or if there's an indictment for criminal charges, which would be a huge breakthrough for everyone, because this isn't, the complaints are filed on our husband's cases, but this isn't about our husbands. This is a much bigger conversation. Rights for patients in the hospitals have been under attack for years. I know you recently did a study about medical kidnapping, and that to me is ultimately what started me on this path, because my fear was, at the time he was 8, now he's 11. And my fear was, if I take him to the emergency room for a broken arm and he is unvaccinated he's never received any vaccines. And if they determine that they want to vaccinate him and I don't agree, I'm terrified that they'll take him away from me, that will become an issue. So protecting others. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry. This is really important what you've just said, because every parent who's watched Vaxxed 3 will understand what you 2 have been through, and so many others are absolutely petrified of going to hospital, and for good reason.
Yes.
Because the minute your child or your loved one is in hospital, you've basically handed over them to them.
Yes.
And this is what we need to get through. Women who want to give birth in hospital. You saw the measles cases of those 2 poor girls who they said died of measles. They did not die of measles. It's a very similar protocol, if you like, to the COVID protocol. And the parents were lied to. And so it seems to me, which is a terrible situation for us to be in 2025 in America, that we do not want to go to hospital for anything.
I am scared to death to go to a hospital. After my husband went, he was a prisoner. They took away his God-given rights and his constitutional rights to say what he wanted and didn't want. And they said they restrained him. Basically, they tied him to the bed. They gave him lethal injection drugs. They gave him remdesivir. They ventilated him. and he never come home. So the enormous guilt that I carry, because I believe they were doing the best they could until I saw his hospital records. Leslie and the other widows said, go get his records. And I thought, well, why? These doctors worked very hard to save these people. And they didn't give me but a couple of hundred records at first. I had to go back 5 different times. And they told me what is left is just garbage. Well, when I received what they called garbage, that's when I saw the horrific pictures they took of what his body looked like. My husband did not even get basic care. And they said the doctors were so busy. But yet you see the videos of doctors and nurses dancing and choreographing in the hallways. And they said they didn't know what to do. I understand COVID was new and scary, but they knew basic care.
Yeah, so many reports of abuse. And it breaks my heart really, because, you know, these people desperate for just some ice chips or just a tiny bit of water, and it's being denied them. I can't imagine the suffering that these people went through. And I also have to say that we have had a few people write to us at Children's Health Defence and say, please don't forget about us. We are you're talking a lot about the COVID shots, which is true, we are. But there's not an awful lot to report on, because outside of you two, I don't see what is happening for these people that were killed in hospital.
Well, Scott's case coming up is going to be massive in June. And to have that, I understand, hopefully, I don't know if the judge has given a final ruling on whether or not you will be able to, CHD will be able to live stream it or not. But that is going to be a breakthrough case for everyone. Our hope is that once, and in my heart, I believe that God is watching over this case and that grace will win. That is what I believe in my heart. And if we can get to that point, then we can talk to a lot of these legislators about changing the rules. One of the biggest obstacles has been that the PrEP Act fell into place. And now that these things are coming out, that there was malfeasance and mistreatment and willful misconduct, maybe we can start talking to the legislators about tolling the statute of limitations on malpractice and malfeasance and wrongful death, so that widows, because many of them are left in situations where their primary breadwinner is gone, they're struggling financially, and for them to be able to fight these and bring these cases forward would be huge. And now that there's attorneys out there that are considering taking the cases.
But Leslie and Peggy, this is still happening today. And I don't mean just COVID hospital protocols. I spoke to someone recently who said their sister was taken into hospital where she was intubated. And the doctor and nurse came in and said, shall we give her something to let her quietly slip away? Well, the parents said, no, absolutely not. The family said, no, absolutely not. And she's fine now today. But they were going to give her something to have her slip away. What is going on?
They've normalized medical assistance in dying, like they've done in Canada. They have normalized death to the point where we don't question the death of anyone over a certain age. We expect it. When people get sick, we expect, or there's a part of us that is in expectation of death instead of fighting for life. It was interesting reviewing the medical records and the things that we have always, throughout all of medical, history, to my knowledge, that we have understood were the standards of care were completely thrown out of the window. First and foremost, the patient has a right to choose. If the patient cannot choose, then the advocate has the right to choose. And it was never a question of whether or not you had bodily autonomy in the hospital. Now you go into the hospital, they don't even discuss what they're doing a lot of times. And unnecessary things. When people were going in for COVID, just in the medical records that I had reviewed, the over oxygenation on admission. My husband was perfectly stable on 5 liters of oxygen in the emergency room and during transport. But the minute he was admitted to the ICU, they put him on 60 liters of oxygen, which is, in my opinion, is insanity. I went through 3 years of respiratory failure with my mother, and that was never a thing. Ventilator was always the last choice. It was always the last course of treatment because it could be detrimental in some cases if it wasn't monitored very closely. They have normalized sedating patients so that they don't have to deal with them, as far as I can tell. There's no other reason patients aren't, complaining of anxiety. There's nothing documented in the records that patients were anxious or delirious, yet we start them prophylactically on sedatives and anti-anxiety and antipsychotics. It's the whole medical system has just become very foreign to me.
I find it really, really, really hard to get my head around the doctors and the nurses in these hospitals. So we saw all the good doctors and nurses who came out and became whistleblowers and said, I don't want any part of this. What's happening is wrong. What about the countless others still in there doing it today with such mean words that they told these patients before they died? I mean, these people died a horrific death, viewers. Know this. Not only were they abused and not given the basic needs, water and food, they were also abused for not being vaccinated. They were treated harshly. They had sores all over them. We've seen the pictures of what these people, I'm not just talking about Peggy and Leslie's husband, I'm talking about the many, great many stories that we did. There was no nice death in these hospitals.
They were isolated, and my husband was told daily he was going to die because he was unvaccinated. When the doctor called me, he didn't say your husband's going to die because he's sick. He said your husband's going to die because he's unvaccinated. And I just said, get behind me, Satan. And I hung up on him. And he called back and he said, Peggy, we got disconnected. No, sir, we did not. You are speaking negativity about my husband in front of him in the room, and you are not God. But he played God. And in my opinion, they got paid extra for the deaths. So you get what you pay for. And if the hospitals was making these big bonuses, you wasn't going to come out alive.
It's absolutely tragic. And I'm so grateful to you both for fighting the way you are. I know your two husbands will be beaming down from heaven with pride for both of you. Really, truly, you are just a shining example of fighting for the right thing for the future, for all of us, actually, because who knows when any of us will ever end up in hospital, God forbid. And you're right, Peggy, they are playing God. That's what they're trying to do. And that's not going to go well in their favor. So will you both come back on and update us as things develop? Because I know our viewers will be praying for you, sending you love and so much gratitude for what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
And thank you guys, because but God, we didn't do anything. God has used Leslie and I. We are just vessels that he's working through. And without God, we wouldn't have got where we've gotten. Every time we go to do something, we talk about it, we pray about it, and we ask for discernment. Because God has got his hand all over this.
Amen.
Amen. Well, we look forward to having you back on. Keep us updated, and well done for the work you're doing. It's fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You have a blessed day.
Good morning, CHD. Thanks for joining us. This is the Mothers to Be segment where we talk about all things preconception, conception, and the first year of life. And I'm really excited today to share about breastfeeding. This is one of the cornerstones of having a healthy baby. And I feel like there aren't as many resources that we would like, or even more so that the resources aren't as easy to find for some people. And so I wanted to share, before we bring on our guest, my story with breastfeeding. So whenever I had my baby, I thought, I got pregnant and I thought, I'm just going to be able to do it. It's going to be this natural thing that's just going to happen, right? Like all animals breastfeed, and, how hard can it be? And it was really hard. I had Al in the hospital, and we never were really given that golden hour time. And that's a whole different other story. But we didn't end up even attempting to latch until about 2 hours after my birth. And immediately she had latching issues. She really struggled to latch at all. I saw 2 different lactation consultants in the hospital, and wow, one lactation consultant is so different than another. And by the end of it, I mean, it was really difficult. I was really afraid that my baby wasn't getting enough milk. And then you have all this fear about, should I give her formula? Should I be pumping? Should I be feeding her from a bottle? And then there's the fear of, oh, am I going to mess her up if I feed her with the bottle? And by the time I got home, she still was, really struggling to latch. And I ended up seeing another lactation consultant who, weighed her after every feeding and really kind of put me on the right track. And I think ultimately she led to the success of my breastfeeding journey. But it was really difficult. I dealt with a lot of latching pain. Once we got her to latch, her latch was incorrect. And then, this is the kicker, and we'll end up touching on this. I was told, oh, your baby has tongue and lip ties. And if she's not able to breastfeed properly, you should consider getting them released. And I, even in my fear, kind of thought about, okay, maybe should I take her and get her released and do the surgery on her mouth? And through better judgment, I went to a chiropractor and we worked together. And, around 6 weeks, my pain from breastfeeding ended up lessening. But it was not the journey that I thought it would be. And so breastfeeding has become something I'm very passionate about, and talk to all my friends who are conceiving about and help them prepare for it. And so today we're going to be talking with Emily Swann, who is the love of breastfeeding. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So Emily, you're a mom too, right?
Yes, I have 2 littles, and then I'm pregnant with our third.
That's amazing. And so what made you want to become a lactation consultant?
Yeah, I was a NICU and labor and delivery nurse, and then I had my daughter, and a very similar story to you. We just had the hardest time breastfeeding. And I even had this preconceived belief that since I had helped so many moms breastfeed in those early days, that I should be good at it. And I found myself at home just like any other first-time mom, crying and wanting to breastfeed, and she was just not doing it, and wondering, like, where are we going wrong? What am I doing wrong? Similar to you, every mom probably feels this, the fear of, like, I feel like I should give her a bottle because she's hungry, but I don't want to introduce a bottle because then we might never breastfeed, and just the fear behind that. And I believed really strongly that breastfeeding was what was best for babies. And so to me, it felt like I was failing in that. And I saw like 4 or 5 lactation consultants over the period of a few months. And it wasn't until I met, because my daughter eventually was able to latch, though it was a really bad latch still, it was enough. And I saw someone at 3 months old, Sully, was having severe reflux because her latch was so bad. She was taking in lots of air, and so it was causing really bad reflux. And the woman that I met with, I was supposed to go back to work, labor and delivery, and she ended up saying, hey, I think you should become a lactation consultant. And she ended up being my mentor for about 1.5 years until I became a lactation consultant and launched my own practice. So it was very much a, divine intervention that I landed in this work.
Yeah, it's so funny. I even thought to myself, not even that long ago, I'm like, should I be? Because whenever you experience painful breastfeeding, when you experience your baby not being able to latch and the fear of that, and all the different emotions you're feeling postpartum, you just want to save any other mother from ever experiencing that. So I want to dive right in and talk about tongue and lip ties, because this is really controversial. I mean, even in the health freedom space, some people will say, oh yeah, get them released as adults, some, even as babies. So I want to get your take on tongue and lip ties.
Yeah. So it's very nuanced. And over the years, having worked with so many babies and moms, there's so many different factors that play into whether a baby ends up getting a frenectomy or not. A frenectomy is the surgery where they release the tissue of either under the tongue, up above the lip, or they do the two cheeks on the side as well. Those are called buccal ties. And over the last few years, the surgery has become a lot more popular because of what people believe is an instant kind of feedback where it's immediately better, whatever the issue is that they're looking to resolve. But it's kind of a misconception at this point because we don't have the data to show us whether every baby, half the babies, 75% of the babies come out and have better function. In fact, a lot of babies come out with worse function, oral trauma, where they don't want to feed at all. They get really overwhelmed, sort of like a body response where they kind of clamp down, snap back, because that frenulum under the tongue is connected to the rest of the fascia in the body. And so there's post-procedure exercises that have to be done, which are painful. That's rubbing on the wound, essentially. Even the most gentle exercises are still going to be painful. So there's just a lot of nuance to it. And it doesn't mean that people shouldn't do it, but it's very, very, very much mother-led at this point, in my opinion. In order to have a good outcome, that really needs to be led by the mother. We can't have providers, which is what we're having right now, pretty much fear-mongering moms, similar to in the birth space of like, if you don't get this procedure, you will never breastfeed, your baby will never have, their tongue sealed to the roof of their mouth, they'll have airway issues. And so we're just terrifying moms into getting it versus giving them information and empowering them to make a choice that feels right for their family.
Yeah, whenever I saw my lactation consultant, she was talking about the tongue and lip ties. I'm obsessively weighing my baby and I'm so worried. And then they're giving me this golden ticket and they're saying, hey, you can do this and it'll fix things. And I actually was chatting with my fiance about it afterwards and found out that whenever he was little, doctors told his mom to cut his tongue and lip tie, and they did, and she still did not end up breastfeeding.
Yeah.
So, there's
it's more complex than that.
Right. Do you have any particular examples that you would want to, illustrate?
Sure. So let's say like a good example of like a procedure outcome that is positive would be a family that sees and works with a really good lactation consultant. So the IBCLC is an international certification. We take a test, but there's so much more education we can have. So like some lactation consultants are more well-versed in specific things like tongue ties than others. So making sure you see someone who is really good at what they do, really good at looking at the oral motor function of a baby's mouth, how their tongue moves and manipulates breast tissue. Those things are really important. Doing a lot of body work, either like you said, the chiropractor, actual fascia work like CFT, CST, PT, OT, something like that. And then prepping, having a well-grounded, well-regulated baby and mother, doing the surgery, having a plan of what you want your specific outcome to look like, whether it's less pain with feeding, improved function. Those people usually have good outcomes. So, and those moms know they have to do the post-procedure exercises. They're prepped. They've practiced it on the baby before they've had the procedure. All in all, those situations usually end up doing really well. Those are kind of few and far between, though, is what we're seeing. And so on the other side is kind of like you're saying, we're getting a lot of moms who go to lactation consultant, PT, OT, speech, pediatrician, who's pretty much saying like, you have to do it now, or else you're never going to breastfeed. And it's really hard for moms, especially in that postpartum time of vulnerability and hormones, to not say yes to that, and which is understandable. So they're going in without any preparation. The baby hasn't had like proper body work and nervous system preparation. The mom is a mess, so anxious, understandably. And then they go home and they have to do the post-procedure exercises on a crying baby constantly. Those babies rarely have a good outcome. They can have, like I said, oral trauma. The tongue can actually, if there's not any like good function, if there's not like a groundedness, the tongue can start falling back into the airway, which causes more problems. they can reattach. So if you don't do the exercises properly or enough, then it'll just reattach. It'll all have been for nothing. They can really like either be really traumatized and not want to go back to the breast or not want to take a bottle, something like that. So there's just a lot that can happen. And we don't really know the long-term implications at this point either.
Yeah. So, okay, if a mom is watching this and she has heard that her baby has tongue and or lip ties, and maybe she's feeling afraid, what are you going to say to her?
Yeah. This is like the cornerstone of my practice because I solely had a tongue and lip tie. I was told to get it released. I felt really uncomfortable with that. And so I spent pretty much the better part of a year looking for other options. And so what I tell moms now is there is no emergency when it comes to a tongue and lip tie procedure. It is not an emergency like a choking or, a drowning or something horrible like that. It is just information. And you can take that home and you can sit with it for as long as you need. There's no right or wrong time to get a frenectomy, despite what the providers might be saying. It looks different as babies get older, but that still doesn't mean that we have to have that level of urgency where it's like, I can't decide, but they're telling me I have to do it. I have to go do it now. So go home, sit with your husband, sit with your partner, decide what feels good for your family, write out what your goals are. Cause everyone's goals are going to be different. So for Soli, my goal was breastfeeding exclusively and proper tongue function. And then I sat with that and I said, okay, we're mostly breastfeeding now. So can we check that box? And then proper tongue function, meaning the tongue is sealed up on the roof of the mouth to prevent any other issues. Can I find a way to encourage that without doing this procedure? And I felt like yes. And some other moms might sit with that thought and feel like, no, the procedure is going to be our next best step. But either way, you're not going into it with this level of stress and anxiety that urgency, it has to be done right now. So just take your time, make sure you really trust the person that's guiding you through that process, whether it's a speech therapist or an IBCLC, not a pediatrician. They're not, unfortunately, they're really good at what they do, but they're not well-versed in the oral motor function of babies. A dentist would be better. But just make sure you trust the person that's really looking in your baby's mouth and giving you that instruction and ask them, show me what it is that you want her tongue to actually be doing and how the procedure is going to make it do that so that you can understand and conceptualize if that is going to be the right choice for you.
I love, those takeaways to really focus on what your goals are and go with that. And I think even though it wasn't as pronounced, it was the same way for me. I really had to kind of sit with it and think what do I really want from this? And I think I felt like there was such a rush because you are in pain and you are afraid and these different things. But I really said, you know what? Okay, I'm just going to give this a shot. I'm going to really focus on getting her to latch the correct way because a lot of people do not teach you how to do that. I'm going to really focus on doing the body work with a chiropractor. I'm going to focus on doing things to help me heal my nipples. So that would be saline rinses. I found healing nipple salves instead of, the lanolin that's just going to be locking moisture in or out. And so, using herbal remedies and, a couple months in, all of a sudden he blinked and, oh, we're not in pain. I'm not in pain anymore. Her latch is perfect. Now sometimes she latches and it scares me because I'm like, oh my gosh, where did you come from?
Yeah.
Say, for example, for co-sleeping or something. And it's now a thought of the past. And so that's really awesome. I wanted to also touch on, what can moms do to set themselves up for success when it comes to breastfeeding?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the best thing to do that nobody is doing because no one's talking about it is meet with an IBCLC prenatally. It should be something on our checklist. We're going to the OB or we're seeing our midwives, 10, 15 times during our pregnancy, but we never meet with an IBCLC. And there are so many IBCLCs. I'd say the vast majority of us have a little PowerPoint spiel that we can do with you. We can answer all your questions. We can talk about what to expect. Like your story, for example, how your daughter didn't get her first latch until hour 2. I don't know if you knew going into it or not, but babies should latch within a first hour of birth. And so a a lot of moms don't know that. And so those are things that we can like educate on without overwhelming. And then you can go into your early breastfeeding days with a little preparation. The other thing I like to teach in that little class I have, which is usually covered by insurance, by the way, too, is like what to expect if something goes wrong. That way we aren't day 2 crying, bleeding, an emotional wreck, breastfeeding's not going well, and we're going, what do we do? It's an emergency. That way, I teach in my class that we don't need to do any supplementation until day 3 at least. So that way you can at least calm yourself down. You can keep trying, keep baby skin to skin, and then give yourself a little like wiggle room of like, it's not an emergency yet. I'm going to see my lactation consultant tomorrow that I met prenatally with. I already know her. We already have rapport. And that way you just feel more confident, because the problem is that if you end up in the hospital, you end up with the hospital lactation consultants, if they have them, not every hospital does, and they don't know you and they're busy and they're spending 20 minutes in your room like every other healthcare professional at this point. And women need more than that when they have early, like you went through early breastfeeding struggles. You need someone to hold your hand for a little while and talk you through it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would definitely recommend that now. And it's so hard because whenever you bring up breastfeeding, for some reason, moms have this mental block. And I think even I did, because you're focused on the nursery and you're focused on, what car seat do I get? What stroller do I have? What baby carrier? And I never stopped and once thought like, oh, maybe I should see someone ahead of time. And I really hope that we're able to change that culture when it comes to breastfeeding, to really normalize, hey, we don't have the village anymore. The gossips aren't coming to stay at your house. Usually we lost a whole generation of women who are breastfeeding. So we don't have that generational knowledge anymore. You need help. Like, and there's nothing wrong with you if your breastfeeding journey is not just this sunshine and roses. I mean, it's a tough experience and you need someone to teach you. And oftentimes we need to teach our babies to latch. Not all babies can just latch automatically. For me, I was doing the latch correctly, but she wasn't capable of latching, so these are things that we just don't really think of. And I would, before we get out, I wanted to also bring up what are some of the issues that come up most often for breastfeeding. So what can moms, maybe she can't afford a lactation consultant, maybe she feels like it's too overwhelming to meet with one before, what are some issues that she can educate herself on now before she gets pregnant or while she's pregnant?
Totally. I think that it could be helpful to explore the common like breastfeeding issues that come up and have a plan for like, okay, if it hurts, what am I going to do? If she doesn't transfer well, what am I going to do? So pain, poor transfer, which is meaning the baby doesn't pull milk out of pathological low supply, which if you have a good OB or midwife, they should be educating, like that should come up then, whether you have PCOS or some sort of insufficient glandular tissue, like those things should come up prenatally and you could be prepared for that. But overall, the main issues are pain and transfer issue. And the transfer issue or the pain could be a result of poor oral motor function, tongue ties, weakness, birth trauma. So, I know more women are focused on their birth than even breastfeeding, but having the idea of like having a as close to a natural birth as we can to protect breastfeeding, even because there are so many things in the birth space that do affect breastfeeding as well. One of the easiest things that I like to tell mom, if you are in your prenatal time, you're pregnant and you're thinking about breastfeeding, one of the best things you can do for breastfeeding is eat a nourishing diet. And I think that just is across the board, something we can control, something that makes us feel good, improve our pregnancies, improve our births, improve breastfeeding, is to make sure that you're eating a well-rounded whole foods diet, so that you're like less likely to have low milk supply for what would be a non-pathological reason, just you don't eat enough or you don't eat well. So that's one thing we can do just to at least take some of the stress out of the situation. We have no control over if our babies come out and are horrible at latching, we can only work with them from then on, but on our end, we can make sure we eat really well during our pregnancies.
Absolutely. And, there's so much more I would love to get into on a later date with you about this. But I totally agree about the nutritional aspects. That's what we're all into at Mothers to Be. It's so funny. I was actually just filming something and I went to the bathroom to pump for my baby. And I was like, why is not that much milk coming out? And I realized I was so tense. And I was like, I need to sit down and breathe. And literally just from that, I noticed more milk coming. And same with the nutrition in the very beginning, with stress, but with the same with the nutrition in the beginning, and even now, I'm always noticing a lot more output when I'm less stressed, but I'm eating high
Yeah.
protein, and just enjoying food, whenever you're eating intuitively. So I would love for you to tell us a little bit more about how we find you on social media and all these different things, and what kind of resources that you have, and how clients can see you.
Absolutely. My website is theloveofbreastfeeding.com. You can also find me on Instagram. There's a lot of information on my Instagram. It's at the love of breastfeeding. And through either of those pathways, you can book a virtual appointment with me. We can do so much virtually right now, which is incredible. We can even assess the oral motor function of a baby virtually, which I think is just so cool and such a gift for where we are right now. You were talking about how we don't have the village. So we're like lacking all of these pieces that were so important to us before, but we also have the opportunity for kind of new ways to support women. So I can do a virtual appointment. And then I have my bodywork course. It's a course designed to teach moms how to do bodywork at home on their own babies, specifically to improve breastfeeding outcomes, specifically the babies with tongue ties. And that's just so helpful because if you live in a rural area like me, you might not have a good body worker around you. You might not have a good IBCLC around you. It's also much more beneficial to do body work daily versus however often we can get to. When I was seeing clients more in person, it's like every other week for 15, 20 minutes. It's not moving the needle for babies the way they need to. That has like over 600 women in it so far. And it's just a really good resource. And then I have a little ebook on just really basic, but really important preconception, pregnancy, and postpartum nutrition information. And I have a podcast. So you can find all of those things on my link or on my website. And I just really enjoy that I get to connect with so many women still, even with 2 kids and 1 on the way. So we have a lot of opportunities to still work together, which is great.
Yeah, I love becoming a mom and finding that work-life balance and getting to, arm other mothers with information. It's made a big difference. And, a cute little story before we go is I was on FaceTime with my friend who recently had her baby, and she's like, I don't think I'm making any colostrum. I don't think I'm making any milk. And I was like, well, how are you expressing? And she showed me on FaceTime, and I was like, oh no. And I showed her how on my own self. And then she was able to do it afterwards. And the look on her face was so bright. And I showed her some videos of myself latching my baby. And I was so amazed with how much of a difference I could make just from a couple FaceTimes. And so, I'm not trained by any means, but, so it's really awesome to hear all the awesome work you're doing. And yeah, we really appreciate you coming on the show. And we'll definitely have to have you back sometime.
I would love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so another tragic story. Can you guys both tell us your names?
My name's Nicole Matten.
My name's Brooklyn.
How old are you, Brooklyn?
Almost 10.
And if your sister had been alive today, she would be about to have her 13th birthday. Tomorrow would have been her 13th birthday.
Yep.
Now, do you have any other brothers and sisters?
1 brother and 3 sisters.
How old's your brother?
17.
17. And your sisters?
4, 5, and 6.
Okay. All right, well, this is the picture of your daughter. Your mum's just gone to go. Is that your mum, by the way?
Yep.
Yeah, she's gone to go. I don't know if you can see this. I'm just going to go in closely. As we are Vaxxed going in and just look at that beautiful child killed by the flu vaccine. We're not going to mince around this, and we're not going to sugarcoat this story. Okay, it is what it is, and if people don't like it, then deal with it. This is truth. Beautiful girl. I'm just going to show YouTube. Beautiful girl. Beautiful girl. Now, when she died, how old was she?
7.
When she was killed, she was 7. I can't even imagine how you even go there. So we're going to do this. We're going to talk about it. And you remember this happening to your sister, even though you were only little.
I was in preschool.
You were in preschool, but you do have memories of it. And obviously your older brother.
He remembers it.
Bless him. Okay. Right. One of the first things we're going to establish, which we do already know the answer to, is when you were pregnant with your eldest, which I presume is your 17-year-old,
Mhm.
were you anti-vaccine?
No,
No.
not at all.
What did you think about vaccines then?
Well, when I had him, I was 15, so I didn't really know much. So I just listened to what I was told I should do.
Just did everything we were told to do.
Yep.
And so then he's 17, and then how long after did you get, what's your daughter's name?
Kaylynne,
How long after did you get pregnant with Kaylynne? 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 4 years,
Yes.
I estimate. So you get pregnant with her,
Mhm.
and do you have any vaccines when you're pregnant with her?
I didn't have any, no.
No. And when she was born, how was she?
When she was born, she was healthy, full term, had her vaccines like she was supposed to, because I didn't know better.
Sure.
I was still pretty young.
And so you did everything the doctor told you
Mhm.
on time, 2 months, 4
Yep.
months, on we go, 1 year.
Yep.
And did she have any reactions as she was growing up to the vaccines, or did she just seem like a typical girl?
Just a typical girl.
And so what sort of things did she love to do? What kind of, describe her?
She was a little boy. She liked to hunt and fish, and I actually have a picture of her on the boat that's coming. And
We used to play the buddy game.
the buddy game.
The what game?
The buddy game, it's when we have this swing set that me, Nate, and KK used to go and run up on the slide so then Buddy wouldn't get us.
And what's Buddy?
Our dog.
Oh, so you were buddied. Oh, what a lovely game you used to play. Oh. Let's have a look.
She loved the outside.
She loved boats.
Her favorite color was blue and purple. So that's mostly the colors we wear as a family.
She loved blue and purple.
Yep. Her like a month before her passing, her first grade teacher told us that she wouldn't be surprised if Kay was the first woman president. And she was just had something about her.
So she was outgoing.
Very.
So
Very outgoing.
keep describing her so we understand what kind of a girl she was. She had no health issues, no?
No.
None.
None.
Completely
Perfectly
healthy.
Yep.
What was her favourite subject at school?
She didn't really like school.
Good for her. I didn't like school either.
She was smart. She did good. She just
Most
didn't
smart
want to go.
people don't like school, just saying.
She just didn't want to be there.
She didn't want to be there. Did she have
No.
some good friends?
Yep. She got my sorry. She had a little boy named Cooper. She became friends with in preschool. She attached herself to him, and they were inseparable.
Poor Cooper.
Yep.
It must have been devastating for him as well.
Yep.
All right, so she's 7 when she dies.
Mhm.
Okay, let's put it, was killed by this flu vaccine. So what on earth happened? Why did she go in and get this flu vaccine?
She went for her yearly well child checkup.
So every year a child goes in, your children go in
Yep.
and get seen by a professional.
Yep.
And so in she goes.
She goes, and we were there, and she was completely fine, completely healthy. The doctor says, well, do you want the flu vaccine? I was like, might as well do it now instead of come up for your flu clinic. So I said yes, and she didn't want to have it. She was mad, had a fit.
Your
Yep.
daughter did not want it.
Nope.
Oh,
She don't like needles.
Me either.
So I gave
you
it
never
to her.
have to have another needle again.
No. Never ever. I should get a tattoo. But she was fine, and then the next day she had a headache. The day after that, she went on a Friday. Saturday she had a headache. Sunday we were doing like family things because it was my birthday. We went and got our Christmas tree and went to her dad's work party for the kids, and towards the end she wasn't feeling good. She was kind of nauseous, had a headache, had a fever. We started decorating, doing Christmas stuff at the house, and she went on our stairs and laid down and fell asleep.
On your stairs?
Yep.
Okay, so what did you think?
I just figured she just didn't feel good. And then the next day, she was in bed all day. She got up once, maybe to color with her for a few minutes. And then on the 6th, we woke up and she was kind of cold. She had purple like blotches on her. Like, you know, when you get cold, your skin is like, I don't know. And she just left the earth. Which I didn't know.
She died in your arms?
Yeah, on the way up to the hospital.
So, can you sit here? Can we speak to you? Because you're a very important part of this.
She was driving my car.
So it was you two together?
Yes. I said, we called the doctors. We said, you've got to see her. Something's not right.
And they said, well, come in at
10:30.
like 10:30.
We said no.
Wait, what time was it?
8:30.
So it's 8:30 in the morning, and they said come in at 10:30.
And I said around her lips are purple. And then I called.
Was she lifeless at
Pretty
this point?
much.
Was she responding in any way whatsoever?
No. We just figured she was just tired and just cold. And I called and asked if I could go up now. I said she can't stay and wait until 10 o'clock. So we were driving up there and we got on the interstate and...
You're driving, are you? And you're holding her?
I'm holding her. I wasn't putting her in her car seat. I was holding her. And then we get to... There's an overpass and I heard her, like, a noise. I said, are you gonna throw up? Didn't respond.
What kind of a noise?
A gasping.
It was like her last
her
breath.
last breath.
It was her last breath, but I thought it sounded like she was gonna throw up. And then, like, she wasn't responding, so I just thought she was sleeping. We got down like 5 miles further to the light, and I started giving her CPR, because by then I'm realizing, okay, now she's not breathing. I try to give her CPR to the doctor's office. Wasn't working. I get out of the car, carry her into the doctor's office, and they're like, oh my God, she looks dead. So they yank her from me and start working on her, and...
What's the matter with these people?
Don't know.
And so they start working on her?
They tried until like 10:30, and they were going to call the helicopter in to get her to a different hospital, because our hospital sucks. We don't have resources where we are. It's a small town.
So you didn't get the chance to say goodbye? You just...
No.
Did they call the police?
I got investigated. I had cops come. I'm sitting with her body, and
Over her body.
I'm being questioned by the police.
So you're holding your daughter who's died, and the police are trying to...
She's
Questioning me.
She's dead. And who was it that came?
It was like 3 hours after they
Yeah.
called her time of death, and I was being questioned by the paramedics and the state police. And then I had state police have to go to my house and grab my Tylenol bottles, my ibuprofen bottles.
That was another thing. The night before, you called
I was calling the doctor on call while she
Yeah.
was not feeling well.
and they said, well, give her Tylenol and give her ibuprofen and call us in the morning.
When did you work out that it was the vaccine? When did you was your head clear enough to work that out?
I say 2 days later, because I'm like, she had went to the dentist on that Monday prior, and then the doctor Friday. And for some reason, I wasn't even thinking doctor's office. They're like, what was different? She went to the dentist. She had a cleaning done. And I didn't think of it. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, she had the friggin' flu shot. And she had all flu symptoms. High fever, everything.
So, who did you speak to and say, it's I think it's the flu? Did you speak to a doctor? Did you speak to the coroner? Person doing the autopsy?
I spoke to the coroner, and he was like, well, it's not that I don't think. He was kind of back and forth. And then I talked to her actual doctor, and he's like, no, absolutely not.
What,
and
the
then
one that gave, the one that'll be the one that gave her the vaccine, would it be?
And then when I brought him her autopsy report, like 6 weeks later, you could see in his face when he was reading what had happened to her and her organs that he knew what he did. You could tell. He knew.
What did it say? What did it
He
say?
really didn't say anything.
But what did it say in the report?
The myocarditis is what they listed it as. Myocarditis of unknown etiology. Myocarditis. It's like an infection in your heart.
They use that a lot, guys.
Yeah.
There's a lot coming up. And I'm beginning to really be very suspect of these coroners. They all say the same thing. They're sounding like pediatricians. They're all saying, it's not the vaccines, it can't be that.
It's all in a circle.
There's a bit of cash going on, backhanding, something's going on.
In her death certificate, it does say days following seasonal influenza vaccination, but he wouldn't go as far as saying.
Look, you're the mother.
Because he'll lose his funding for.
Yeah, it's all about money. You're the mother. You know what happened to your daughter. Before she was vaccinated with that flu vaccine, was your daughter okay? Did she run around? Did she look like she had some inflamed heart?
Nope. She was absolutely fine. She was actually playing that night she had the flu vaccine with her running up and down our hill in the backyard.
So you reported this, you filed it.
And yeah.
And what happened?
I end up contacting a lawyer out of New York, and now we have a case in vaccine court that's taking forever.
How long has it been in vaccine court? 5 years?
Almost 6. We were supposed to go in March to have it be done with, figure out, have a hearing, do whatever, and they delayed it till next year.
Are you her mum? That must have been heartbreaking for you to see your daughter. I can't even imagine.
What I have to do with her every year. It's still fresh. Every year this time of year, on her birthday, on her anniversary, we go through this.
And it's tomorrow, her birthday. She would be 13.
Yeah. But when we heard the bus was coming and her name was on it, there's always something that brings it, so she's still there. She's still there looking for rainbows. That's our big thing. Last night there was a rainbow, her telling us. She's there. But things like this, we're not going to sweep under the rug. We're not going to.
No, you mustn't.
No.
It's an absolute...
It's hard for her, but...
They killed my daughter, and I'm not a mom to play with.
She's so beautiful. So
Thank you.
sorry. And it's hard for you too.
Mm-hmm.
You little girl.
She was little at the time, but she remembers those two.
They were troublemakers together. Right?
Yeah, it's really tough, and it's...
And then her son, too. He's 17 now, and he had a hard time.
He still has a hard
Still
time.
has a hard time.
Matter of fact, when that Saturday, my birthday, she got sick, I went down to get ibuprofen for her. Because the doctor told me Tylenol, ibuprofen,
Yeah.
alternate them, like they usually do. And I bought her a teddy bear.
Mm-hmm.
He still sleeps with that teddy bear
Aw.
every night. He was bringing it to school every day.
So where was he when he found out that his sister had died?
We had him picked up from school.
They were in
Oh.
school.
And we told him at the hospital.
Exactly like me.
They picked you up from school as well.
Mm.
And they took you all wet in the hospital and they told you, oh God, I can't.
And I was 6 months pregnant. And then I also had Allie, who was almost a year old.
Oh, I'm so sorry. We're all so sorry.
Thank you. Her dad sat there and held her foot and rubbed her leg the whole time they were working on her.
Wouldn't leave her room.
And is it the same dad with all your children?
My oldest isn't his, but
Oh, there's just no words.
And another thing that was the doctor that she called, that was on call that night, sends a card later.
sent me a card, a sympathy card, and said if I would have known how sick she was, I would have had you come in.
Now, how's that supposed to help when your daughter's dead?
No, but it's proof that.
Yeah, it is proof, but it's just annoying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
It's like the paediatrician who sent Mason Bundy's stuffed toys to his grave. So you're still in court.
Mhm.
Oh, I pray you get that day. She gets the justice she deserves.
She deserves it.
No, you are. What's the deal? You've had no more vaccines. No more vaccines in your whole family. Nothing for you, nothing for anyone. Now we know the real truth.
She had asthma pretty good for a while, to where she was getting hospitalized like every 6 months with the asthma and not being able to breathe. We'd be in the hospital for 4 days on oxygen, and I stopped vaccinating her, and I think she's got pneumonia once since then.
But then they said that it was something else at North Country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they said it was from secondhand smoke because her dad smoked at the time.
Oh yeah, there's anything whatsoever that they can get their hands on other than the vaccines. Well, guys, we're not trusting your crap science anymore. We're done, and we're taking over, and we are now in control.
Yeah, so
Now we're going to put a picture of your sister on the bus. She's going to be absolutely famous. Everybody's sending you love, and they're saying that they will never, ever, ever forget your sister, ever. And we're going to put her on the bus. Now, what picture are we going to use? We won't take your picture. This is yours.
I got plenty of those.
Oh, you have? Okay, let's take it. We need to take it out of here, though. Can't have any glass on the bus.
This was actually her handwriting a week before she passed away.
Okay, go close right up to. Can you take? Do you know how to someone who? Oh, my eyes don't work. All right. Okay. There. That's her absolute. How am I?
NNE.
Oh, and let's just show these people.
That was on a test she nailed a week before she passed away.
And I have it on the back of my neck, and her father has it in the back of his neck.
My son said when he gets the courage, he wants it too.
But that's her
I'm getting
handwriting.
one too.
And so did you have a very good relationship with your daughter? I mean, granddaughter. With Toby.
All of them.
What a shock to the whole family that this could even happen. There we go. She's coming on the bus. We're going to go and tape her up there. It's very, very sad how we're running out of room down there. Now, you have to shout out the spelling of her name because I remember the sibs.
It's
We're going to just find a space
okay.
where we're going to put her where everybody can see her.
Yeah.
I think we're
Oh, I got two in there. Well, I didn't lose it after all.
going to have to go on this side.
gonna be
Going
dragging.
with
Oh boy.
Ariana and Jonas and Abigail. That's who she's going to be with. Okay, shout out. How do I spell her name?
K-A-Y.
Kaylynne.
Y. N-N-E. She's driving the bus.
She's on the bus. I'm going to have to clear this section and make this section to the new memorial because we're basically full. Isn't that awful?
Yeah, it is all.
That's disgusting. Okay, you'll have to watch this back and see how many people love you. Lots and lots of hearts and love here, and anything else you want on this, because it's so shocking that a flu vaccine can kill a 7-year-old girl. So shocking to those that don't know what we know.
Read the ingredients. See what the ingredients can do to you. Guaranteed you won't do it again.
I'll tell you who's going to want to hear this story, and that's Bobby Kennedy.
I've met him. Yeah, she showed him.
Oh, so he knows your story.
I met him quickly at the State House once. My son actually has a picture with him.
Okay. All right.
And also, do not give up. She's wanted to give up a couple times going to pursue this Sue. And I think that's what they want.
Yeah.
So they will sweep it under the rug. Don't.
It's exhausting,
It
isn't
is.
it?
She's
It's
very
exhausting.
Very. I was up to her grave the other day, and I just hung out with her for a little bit. We have birthday parties for her up there, and
Balloons go.
and because Kaylynne's favorite colors are blue and purple, the underneath of her hair is gonna get.
You're
blue and
going to
purple.
colour your hair blue and purple in honour of your sister. Wow. Will your school let you do that?
I don't care if they will
Yeah,
or not.
You know what?
It'll
Bring
be
it
a-
on.
Yep, exactly. Mama, don't play.
You're amazing. You're all amazing. And we're never going to forget her. Promise you that. And we will also plant a tree for her, because in Austin, Texas, we are planting trees in memory. So you'll have to come to Austin and plant your sister's tree.
Sounds good.
The school that she did go to did plant a lilac tree for her on the school grounds. And it's still there.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
What are the ones called with that? Is that lilac tree where they have these big hanging lilac flowers? No, maybe not.
No.
I'll look that up, and you'll
Yeah.
see, because they grow a lot in Austin. That's beautiful. She'll love that. It's beautiful lilac-y.
Purple.
Yeah.
Lots of purple.
Yeah.
Mommy, didn't Connor, no, what is it? Cooper kiss KK?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
KK told me that Cooper had kissed her under the tree. So
How is Cooper off? Yeah, Cooper's her boyfriend. Friend that's a
pretty
boy.
much. We don't see him as often anymore.
Mine's
Just 'cause-
13 as well. But it must have hit him hard.
Yeah.
It did very
We
well.
gave him one of KK's stuffed animals, so they would always be together. And he has a shirt with her picture on it. I don't think it fits him anymore though.
No.
But yep, he said no. I asked him at the funeral. I was like, "Did you kiss my daughter under the tree?"
Okay, he's going to be really scared if a mother comes up and says that, and she's not there to protect him. No, he's going to say no.
No,
way.
I didn't. I didn't.
promise.
I was like, okay, I'll believe you. I don't believe him.
Okay, guys. Well, everybody's sending you so much love, and thank you so much for talking about this. Very important,
problem.
and it's just utterly tragic.
Very tragic.
Yeah, the amount of deaths these vaccines have caused.
And no one
Untold.
knows about it. No one knows. Because they don't make it public.
And that's going to
Or they deny it.
We don't care what they say. It's all about us now. We're taking control.
If,
Isn't that right, peeps?
If you don't get hurt or killed by a vaccine, then why the... Do you have court for it?
Yeah.
A special court makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Biggest lie ever told.
Yep.
In June of 2000, behind closed doors at a secluded retreat in Georgia, top scientists, government officials, and pharmaceutical executives met in secret. Their mission? To discuss alarming new data. Data that showed a strong correlation between mercury in vaccines and neurodevelopmental disorders. Officially titled Scientific Review of Vaccine Safety Data Link, this would later be dubbed the Simpsonwood Meeting. came back to the scene. All we could find was rubble where the retreat and conference center once stood. What happened in this place was never meant for public ears. What happened next would change history. But before we can understand Simpsonwood, we have to go back 25 years to the policies, the cover-ups, and the warning signs that set the stage.
Get a shot of protection, the swine flu shot.
It's in the best interest of all of our citizens.
Health Director ordered a stop to all swine flu shots.
And to grasp its full consequences, we must examine what has happened in the 25 years since.
It used to be 1 in 10,000, and now it's 1 in more than 250.
It is a perfect exponential curve.
Parents making decisions about their children's health deserve to have the best information available to them.
You have studied vaccinated versus unvaccinated.
We have not studied vaccinated versus unvaccinated.
We're not sure what causes autism, but we know that vaccines do not.
Vaccines do not cause autism.
Vaccines do not cause autism.
There is no correlation.
The dramatic rise in autism diagnoses, 1 in 31 children, up from 1 in 54 children back in 2016.
Scientific progress on this has been slow because scientists are frankly scared to ask the question.
Genes don't cause epidemics. You need an environmental toxin.
One day everyone will know the truth about vaccines.
Uncover the truth about what happened at Simpsonwood and how corruption in the pharmaceutical industry, along with collusion at the highest levels of public health, paved the way for the explosion of chronic health issues in our children. This is a must-watch event.
The fight for children's health has hit a turning point, and your support has brought us to this moment.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
pledged to find out what is driving the country's rise in autism.
Scientists are scared to ask the question.
This is an epidemic, and we need to find the causes, and we need to stop it.
Other issues CHD has been pushing for years are finally gaining mainstream traction.
The vaccine itself does have profound risk.
We are removing pharma members from FDA advisory committees.
We are working to change the federal fluoride recommendations.
Removing all petroleum-based food dyes.
We're going to change things for real this time.
This is the moment we've been fighting for. Please give today and help us make the most of this opportunity.